the first time in a long time, I'm on here, and I honestly don't even know how to begin a review. I don't. And this is my third take on doing this video for you guys, because I promised you a review of Slammiversary, and I'm going to give you a review of Slammiversary. I just don't know how to begin it. This is not WWE, man. This is new ground for me. This is new coverage for me. Joe might be a little bit more better at covering TNA than I am. He might be a little bit more familiar with the product. This is uncharted territory for me, bro. Going into this, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I shelled out $40 for Slammiversary through Verizon. And immediately, I had that sense of regret. And this can go out to Dixie Carter. This can go out to John Gaborik or whoever else is fucking in charge of TNA. I don't know if they'll see this or not. Whatever the case may be. I'm going to give you an honest review. Because I'm a wrestling fan. I've been watching WWE since I was 4 years old, man. Seriously, WrestleMania 5 was my first fucking WrestleMania. You know, Warrior, Rude, Heenan. You guys know that drill. I've been watching WWE since WrestleMania 5, and I never looked back. There was one small break during the draft, the first go-around, in which I just completely became uninterested because I did not like what they were doing. Okay? I did not like what they were doing. The draft really, really soured on me, and that was the only time I ever stopped watching WWE for a few months. I was completely zoned out. And I'm here now, a little bit more open to things, and I'm a little bit more receptive. And you guys always come to me and tell me, JD, talk about TNA, talk about Lucha Underground, talk about Ring of Honor, or whatever else might be going on in the world of professional wrestling. Just don't limit yourself to WWE. And I paid $40 tonight, and within the first half an hour, I felt a sense of regret. As if I made a mistake, and I kind of judged the show before it even got started. I didn't know if my $40 was going to be well spent. And to be honest with you, the reason why I bought this show is because I became such a fan over the last week and a half of what Matt Hardy was doing with his character. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. And the reason why I bought this pay-per-view was because of Matt Hardy alone. That says a lot. I've never, ever, ever, ever purchased anything TNA. I don't even remember when the last time I purchased a legit pay-per-view was. Matt Hardy got me to shell out $40 through Verizon for this pay-per-view. To me, that speaks of a man's talent. I've been a huge Hardy Boy fan for years, just like everybody else. I don't go crazy, I don't fucking fanboy over them or anything. But they are what reminds me of the good old days in WWE. Everybody associates Jeff with being the Hardy Boy. He's the number one guy everybody talks about when they talk about the Hardys. Matt was always second fiddle. Matt was always second best. And that's not a knock on Matt Hardy at all. That's not a knock on Matt Hardy whatsoever. Jeff was just always the one that caught the eye of everybody. That takes nothing away from Matt. Jeff is just that enigma. That was in the first stage of their career. The first half of their career. Now, if you look at the Hardy Boys and what they're doing now, Matt Hardy is doing things a lot better than what Jeff is. Jeff, to me, is great, but it's the same old, same old. Matt, for him to transform himself, for him to create an entire new character that goes against the grain of what the Hardy Boys are, that's fucking talented. And I'll be the first to tell you, I fucking hated this storyline. I thought this was fucking a crock of shit. When I had friends sending me clips of what Matt Hardy was doing, talking with an accent, playing the piano, looking like a mad scientist or a disgruntled poet, as if he was in the Shakespearean era. I'm like, what is going on here? What am I watching? And the more I watched, the more cringe it was. But the more cringe it was, the more I was interested to see where it went. If that makes any sense at all. And then from there, I watched it again, and again. And each time I watched it, my original opinion of, what the fuck is going on? What am I watching here? Turned into, okay, I'm enjoying this. Okay, I'm appreciating what Matt Hardy is bringing to the table. I'm loving this accent. And I'm a neoclassical guy. I really am. I love neoclassical, progressive metal, power metal. I love the usage of piano in metal. I'm a heavy metal guy. Adding a piano to something, it just makes my insides feel good. And when I see Matt more and more and more getting into this role, and even with the promo he cut on tonight's pay-per-view, it just makes me see how talented he is. And I'm not fucking stroking his cock. I'm not fucking stroking his ego. What Matt has done to take something like this and make it work, that is talent. And he has now a fan in me. I was always a fan of Matt Hardy, but now this might be the most intriguing thing and interesting thing that Matt Hardy has ever done in his entire career. Seriously. I think what Matt is doing is fantastic. And that alone made me shell out $40. That's a testament to a true man's talent. That's the facts. And I bought into it. And at that point, when I seen him come out with his theme, and I seen the match take place, and I seen everything else unfold at the top of the card, my regret for Slammiversary kind of went away. I was okay at the end of the show for shelling out $40. All that what if, all that worry, it went away. It really did. And at the end of it, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that TNA has a new fan in JD. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm going to be reviewing Impact every week. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm ever going to buy another TNA pay-per-view. But I can tell you tonight, from what I seen, I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed what the in-ring product was. I'm not going to sit here and say it was one of the best things that they've ever done. I'm not going to sit here and compare it to WWE. I'm going to sit here and tell you that as a wrestling fan, my $40 went to good use. But it doesn't come without criticism. There's a reason why TNA is struggling. There's a reason why a lot of people's opinions now about TNA are the way they are. And from this one show, I have a very long list of those reasons. The one thing about TNA, and I don't even know if this is going to be a review on the show, because, quite frankly, I don't think I have any business talking about what happened on the show, because I don't know anything leading up to this show. I paid, I watched, and for the most part, I enjoyed. The one thing where TNA struggles the most, and this was very, very clear at the end of the show, TNA has a world champion in Bobby Lashley. He beat Drew Galloway tonight. WWE, like a bunch of clowns, let Drew Galloway go, and TNA picked him up, and that was a great acquisition. WWE completely missed the boat on Drew Galloway. Great look, great in-ring talent, great size. A man that size moves the way he does. You don't find that often in the world of professional wrestling at all. And what he did tonight, probably the best performance I've seen from Drew Galloway ever. Ever. And that's including his time in the WWE. They did not give him proper time to shine. And that's why when some of these guys get let go by WWE and these guys find new life in another promotion, that other promotion gives them the opportunity to grow. You see what these guys are truly made of. They're given a chance. And when they have that chance, they usually, 9 times out of 10, make their old company feel like a bunch of fools for letting them go. That's Drew Galloway. But TNA has a world champion, a new world champion in Bobby Lashley. Before that, it was Drew Galloway. Before that, it was, I'm assuming, EC3. Correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I don't watch the TNA product. Some of you guys might need to correct me on some of the things that, you know, are going on. I might fuck up here and there. But they haven't had a world champion even when Sting was there. Even when Kurt Angle was there. Those are not franchise guys. Kurt Angle in WWE is a franchise guy. Kurt Angle in TNA is not a franchise guy. Now you look at what they got in Drew Galloway and Bobby Lashley. That was the main event for tonight's show. Bobby Lashley is not a franchise guy. What TNA needs to make things right, and the one thing that they should make a priority to get them back in the public eye, to get them back on the right track, for people to care about what they're doing, is to get somebody, I don't give a shit who it is, it has to be a name that every wrestling fan knows and respects. A guy like a CM Punk, a guy like a Daniel Bryan. Those guys are the ones you need to build a company around. TNA, for the longest time, and this includes Sting, and this includes Kurt Angle, and this includes a Jeff Hardy. Those guys are not franchise guys. Those guys are not wrestlers you build a company around. Whether it's their age, whether it's just their career is winding down. You know, WWE has had John Cena for the last 12, 13 years. They now have Roman Reigns. Before that, they had The Rock. Before that, they had Stone Cold Steve Austin. They had Bret Hart. They had Shawn Michaels, Hulk Hogan. The list goes on and on. Those guys are franchise players. Players that you can build a company around. People that you automatically know who they are and where they came from. Not everybody knows who a Bobby Lashley is. Not everybody knows who a Drew Galloway is. That's what TNA has been missing. Someone at the top who is a franchise player. It wasn't even Samoa Joe when he was there. It wasn't an AJ Styles when he was there. TNA had all these guys come through their door and they didn't do anything with them. Now look at Samoa Joe. Look what the WWE has done with Samoa Joe. The best work of his career. Look at what they're doing with AJ Styles. They took someone who was going to walk into the WWE and everybody was writing off as just another indie guy who's not going to get over in the WWE. 2 world title matches against Roman Reigns. Whether you think they buried him or not, I mean, that's up to personal opinion. To me, I think they buried him. But nonetheless, 2 world title matches, 2 headlining pay-per-view main events, a Royal Rumble entry, and now he's fighting John Cena at Money in the Bank. AJ Styles, in 6 months, has done more than anybody else has ever expected. TNA has not done that, as far as I'm concerned, with anybody. With anybody. As long as I've known of TNA, I never seen them take a guy and make him a franchise player. They need someone at the top that is going to make that company feel special. Lashley is not it. Galloway is not it. Jeff Hardy is not it. Angle wasn't it. Sting wasn't it. They brought in Hogan and Bischoff. Styles wasn't it. Samoa Joe wasn't it. Somewhere along the line, the ball was fucking dropped. And that's a fact. That's just my honest opinion. That's what I see. That's what I see. So right then and there, that's what TNA needs. To get back into the public eye, to get people watching and talking and getting hype built around your product. Bobby Lashley as a world champion is not going to get you interest to your product. Just by the way the crowd was tonight, that's a clear indication. Nobody gave a shit when he won the title. We always compare Michael Cole and JBL and Byron Saxton, the announced team on Monday Night Raw, to what they're doing with Mauro Ranallo on SmackDown. SmackDown obviously has the best announced team in WWE. Whether you're a fan of Booker T and Jerry the King Lawler, I really don't care. When you listen to Mauro Ranallo speak, The man can sell a fucking, I don't know, you can put a fucking cardboard cutout of any two wrestlers on the WWE roster in the ring, and Mauro Ranallo can make it fucking interesting. I said this a couple of weeks ago on my Monday Night Raw review. Mauro Ranallo can be standing right here, and I can be fucking knocked out cold at 3 a.m., sleeping, and he would make my sleep exciting. That's how great Mauro Ranallo is. Okay? And when Joe Cronin and I did the mock WWE draft on our podcast out of nowhere, the first two drafts that we had, he had Mauro Ranallo drafted at number 1. My number 2 pick, my number 1 pick, the second pick in the overall draft was Corey Graves. What does that tell you from two men who love professional wrestling? Two men who know what is most important in professional wrestling. It's an announced team that's going to get the talent over. TNA, on top of not having a franchise player at the top that's automatically going to get recognition for the brand and the product, they don't have a solid announced team. And the problem that I seen tonight on top of the Bobby Lashley thing and the franchise player that they do not have is the announced team. Josh Matthews is a B-level announcer. He's a second-rate announcer. He is not a play-by-play guy. He is not a lead. The Pope, I mean, this is the best that TNA can do. I mean, you're better off putting Joe and I as fucking a duo for Impact Wrestling. And I mean that with all my soul. Josh Matthews did absolutely nothing. He did absolutely nothing tonight for 3 hours to get me, someone who is a newbie to TNA, interested in those matches. He didn't talk about past storyline. He didn't talk about past history. He didn't get a newcomer, a new viewer, watching for the first time in forever, interested in what the teams, the singles matches were. He didn't do none of that to get me interested in what was going on in that ring tonight. Nothing. And the way that he makes his voice deep, and the way he tries to overexert himself by calling the big spots in the match, he just comes off sounding like a clown. There's a reason why WWE let him go. The reasons are what you heard tonight. TNA needs a solid announced team to sell what is going on in that ring. Obviously, change happens. There's no Mike Tenay. There's no Don West. I understand that. Same thing with WWE. People nowadays still cannot get over the fact that Jim Ross is not on Monday Night Raw. Michael Cole sucks. We all know that. You know? But that doesn't mean he's not at least a good mind for what is going on. I'm sure Michael Cole is a fantastic human being. I'm sure he has a great mind for what needs to happen in WWE. But everything WWE is, when it comes to the announced team, is scripted. And Michael Cole is not that voice. Mauro Ranallo is the voice of the people now in WWE. He makes everything feel important. Josh Matthews did not make anything feel important tonight on Slammiversary. That's a fucking problem. The production of TNA. I don't know whether Slammiversary is their big pay-per-view of the year. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, and like I said, I'm a newbie, I believe Bound for Glory is their biggest pay-per-view of the year. This is the 14th iteration of Slammiversary. Not at all, not even once, was I aware that this was a huge pay-per-view. TNA really didn't make this feel like a grand pay-per-view. 14. I mean, this is Slammiversary number 14, right? If you're going based on numbers, 14 of these events, that's a pretty big fucking deal. If you're having 14 of the same event, that is a big deal. Not once did TNA make this feel like a big deal. This was an Impact television taping on pay-per-view in front of their hometown crowd at the Impact Arena. Not once did I feel this was an important show. Not once did I feel, imagine if Matt Hardy was not on this show and this angle and this storyline and this match did not happen. There would be no other reason for me to buy this show. It didn't feel important. TNA didn't get that aspect over, and again, the announced team did not get that aspect over. It just didn't feel important. And if it was that big of a pay-per-view, and if it's their second biggest pay-per-view or their top pay-per-view of the year, why are you holding it in the Impact Arena? You know, the hometown crowd is used to seeing certain things. You know, things that they don't like, things that they're familiar with, things that happen that normally an outside crowd would pop for. The Impact Arena, the Impact Zone, is not going to pop for it. Seemed to me the crowd was flat all night. Now, if this was a big enough pay-per-view in which it should have taken place outside of Orlando, maybe an outside crowd would be a little bit more receptive to things that they're not used to seeing. Holding it in the Impact Arena, that type of crowd is used to seeing this every week. So certain things that happened and certain superstars that they seen and certain decisions that were made and certain things that happened on the show, you know, might have been a little bit better with an outside crowd. It might have been a little bit more lively with an outside crowd that wasn't Orlando. You know, this isn't NXT. I mean, the NXT brand and the NXT crowds, they're a different breed. No matter whether they're in Dallas or fucking Brooklyn, wherever. You know, they could hold the fucking entire thing, every show, every pay-per-view at the NXT arena at Full Sail University. That crowd always comes hyped. And they were great at the last TakeOver event with Balor and Samoa Joe. You know, it wasn't like an NXT crowd normally. You know, it was amped up. The people that were there for the TakeOver shows, there's just a certain buzz around it. And the adrenaline of the crowd fucking seeps through the television. You know, I don't understand what was wrong with the Impact crowd tonight. I don't know what was wrong with the people in attendance, but they did not do their part in making this show feel special. It just fell flat. It felt flat. So, that's another gripe that I had. The production of TNA, even though this was Slammiversary, it did feel like an Impact taping. It didn't feel like a pay-per-view. And I don't know if you guys feel that way, but that's just the way I see it. And I'm a first-time viewer. I've watched TNA Impact here and there, channel surfing. I've seen, you know, things for a little bit, and then I go on and watch something else. But this was the first time that I seen a full TNA show, and that was my first thought. This feels, after an hour and a half, it feels like an Impact taping. Now, the one thing that they do right is let the talent feel free when cutting a promo. Mike Bennett, you got Bobby Lashley, you got whoever else was backstage before their matches cutting promos. TNA has a lot of talent that does very well for themselves on the microphone. And that's shown. That was shown tonight. That I can appreciate. And that's the way WWE should do things. Instead of overly scripting guys like Dolph Ziggler and Baron Corbin and all these other guys that we see, overly scripting Apollo Crews and Sheamus and Rusev and Del Rio, and it's the same process over and over and over again. Monday Night Raw is so goddamn fucking scripted. Watching TNA tonight, I felt and I seen the little bit of freedom that most of the talent had when cutting a promo, when they were on the microphone, and even Josh Matthews and the Pope. Even though I didn't like what they did tonight, and I don't like them as a duo, I don't like their announce team whatsoever, they didn't feel scripted. They just didn't do their job right, or correctly, or good, in my opinion. They didn't feel scripted. Everything about Raw and WWE feels scripted. TNA did not feel scripted. That I can appreciate. Those are the things that I liked, and those are the things that I did not like with TNA tonight and Slammiversary. Those are my concerns. The in-ring action was very good. Everybody that was on the show tonight did an admirable job. TNA Slammiversary, the first hour and a half, it felt like a TNA taping, a regular Impact taping, and then around the 9:30, hour, things started to really pick up, and I'm like, oh, finally, Slammiversary can now start. That's when I felt my regret for paying $40 for this show kind of, become less and less and less. As soon as Mike Bennett and EC3 hit the ring, I was like, okay. And then we got Matt and Jeff, and then we got the title match, and the women's match was all right. The X Division match was all right. All in all, it was a decent show. But there's a reason why TNA is not excelling as a brand. It's not excelling as a product. They need to make things feel a little bit more important. And that goes because they don't have proper leadership. I don't know whether that's Dixie Carter. I don't know whether that's John Gaborik. They do not have a leader in place to make sure that all these things, all these criticisms are corrected for the next set of tapings or the next pay-per-view. I'm assuming, and I would bet my fucking life on it, that everything that I seen wrong with this show tonight has been a recurring problem and a recurring theme for months, years in TNA. And I'm a first-time viewer of this fucking brand now. This was legit the first pay-per-view that I have ever seen from TNA. When I tell you I am strictly a WWE guy, I am a WWE guy. Those are my criticisms, and I strongly think, without even watching, that the criticisms that I have, or that I had for this show, have been a fucking problem for a very, very long time. There is no leadership in TNA. Absolutely none. Things that they do right very well. The things that the things that they do wrong, they need to be corrected, and they need to be corrected ASAP. If this show, if this brand, if this company, this product wants to fucking get out of the hole that they're in. Starting at the top. You know? They need a franchise guy. They need someone. They need, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but they need a John Cena-esque type of guy at the top. They need a Roman Reigns-esque guy at the top. You know? That's just the facts. And until that happens, TNA is not going to get the recognition that they deserve. At all. At all. Those are my thoughts on Slammiversary. If you guys want me to go over the card, give you a few thoughts about what I seen tonight as far as the matches go. Trevor Lee really impressed me tonight. Eddie Edwards, you know, I don't know why Triple H let the Wolves go. That's something that I will never understand why. Them and Cassius Ohno, I don't know why they let those three guys go. Fucking stupid. I guarantee you now, if you ask Triple H what he thinks about that decision, he would instantly change his mind. Eddie Edwards is a fucking beast. Andrew Everett and DJZ. This was a very good opening match. It flowed nicely. Having this type of match, a fatal four-way X Division title, sometimes things get a little too spotty. I think they minimized that, and they did very well for themselves and went 10 minutes to open the show. That's the way you open a show, man. With a X Division title or a Cruiserweight title, something to pick up the pace and get the pace going and to liven the crowd right out of the gate. That was a great way to open the show. Trevor Lee looks very impressive to me. It's the first time I've seen him. Like I said, this is a new thing for me watching TNA. I'm familiar with Eddie Edwards, Andrew Everett, and DJZ. They all did their part very well. But in the end here, Eddie Edwards beat Trevor Lee, DJZ, and Andrew Everett with a small package to Lee at 10 minutes and 11 seconds. He is the new X Division champion. Some of you guys were telling me that this was a Get Off My TV match, the Tribunal versus Grotto and Shera. I don't know what Al Snow was doing, but he was with the Tribunal. He was doing his best Bill Alfonso impression, and I'm a big Al Snow guy, man. He's got a fucking unbelievable mind for the business, and he's just great at what he does, man. He's just everything that he says when it comes to the wrestling business and the fucking knowledge that he has. Unbelievable mind is Al Snow. But I don't know what it was with the whistle. I don't know what the fuck was going on. He was wearing a jacket that said France. I don't know why he's with these guys, but he was. And the Tribunal beat Shera and Grotto at 7 minutes and 33 seconds. Really didn't give a shit about this. Knockouts title, Sienna versus Gail Kim versus Jade. Jade looks like someone out of a fucking anime or a Mortal Kombat video game. She looked very impressive tonight. Gail Kim, I'm familiar with what Gail Kim brings to the table. Sienna kind of reminded me of Xena Warrior Princess, man, but a little bit more on the gothic side. So this was a triple threat for the Knockouts title. Sienna beat Jade and Gail Kim. She is the new women's champion, or Knockouts champion in TNA. James Storm versus a newcomer, Braxton Sutter. James Storm here should have stayed in WWE, bruh. Should have stayed in WWE now that Bobby Roode made his NXT debut at the Download Festival overseas in the United Kingdom. James Storm beat Braxton Sutter with the last call at 6 minutes and 47 seconds. If they really wanted to make Braxton Stutter a star, and they really wanted to give him a debut that would be memorable for this type of pay-per-view, instead of drinking with James Storm and spraying beer all over the crowd, Braxton Stutter should have took one of those beer bottles and fucking smashed it over James Storm's head. That's the way you make an impression. But no, they just sprayed beer all over the place, and that was it. That was it. King of the Mountain title. I don't know why they have a King of the Mountain title. I don't know who Eli Drake is. He cuts a pretty decent promo. He reminded me of a little bit of Alex Riley for some reason. That's just what I get from Eli Drake. He went against Bram. This match went 8 minutes and 36 seconds. Eli Drake won. I mean, I don't know. I really wish Josh Matthews and TNA as a fucking company, especially for the undercard, kind of filled me in on why these guys were fighting. I mean, there must have been weeks of build for these matches, unless these matches were just thrown together. I am assuming, I hope, that these matches had some type of build. Why didn't TNA create video packages highlighting why these two were fighting to build a dramatic effect to why the title was being defended here, the King of the Mountain title? That's another thing I failed to mention. TNA did nothing to make a casual viewer, someone like me who's tuning in for a first time here, why would I care about these guys if I have no backstory on them? Josh Matthews and the Pope didn't do it. TNA didn't do it. Why don't I have any backstory to any of these matches? The only backstory that we got was for the women. And Maria had a broken hand or a broken wrist. And they showed x-rays and they were tweeting it out on Twitter. That's the only kind of backstory we got. Everything else up to this point with the King of the Mountain title, we got nothing as far as build and why these guys were fighting to make me at least care. So when the match was over, why was I going to care about this? Eli Drake beat Bram. He retains the title. Mike Bennett versus Ethan Carter III. This is when the show started to pick up. And I said to myself, okay, now Slammiversary can start. It was okay up until this point, but, you know, at this point, I'm like, did I waste $40? Finally, Mike Bennett, Ethan Carter came on. 15 minutes here. Mike Bennett reminds me of Eric Young mixed with CM Punk. And he reminds me a lot of CM Punk in his promos. Mike Bennett, I thought was going to go to NXT with Maria. TNA snatched him away. Great pickup here because Mike Bennett is a fucking player. He is a player. Ethan Carter, we know his history in TNA. He came over from the WWE. Another guy the WWE just let slip away and didn't give a chance to. He reinvented himself in TNA and now has gotten himself over, and his stock is up. So when it's time to renegotiate a deal with TNA, or if he wants to step away from the company that made him and get more money back at the WWE, WWE's going to scoop him right back up, man. He made a name for himself, and this is one of those instances where WWE let someone go, they went and reinvented themselves, and now they're better off for it. Ethan Carter III, EC3. He actually beats Mike Bennett, and the 1%er, I'm assuming is his finisher. He nailed it 3 fucking times to beat Mike Bennett. I mean, Mike Bennett is no Undertaker. Mike Bennett is no fucking 7-foot monster. Mike Bennett is no John Cena. But if he's taking 3 finishers from someone who has been such an important aspect to their television program over the last 700 days, and he delivers 3 finishers, I mean, what does that say? What does that say about EC3 and his finishing move? One aspect I don't like about professional wrestling is the fact that finishing moves get used so often. And kick out after kick out and kick out, near fall after near fall. A finishing move should do as highlighted. Finish. When you nail it 3 times, the effect of that finishing move and the overall impact of that finishing move kind of gets deteriorated. So 3 1%ers to Mike Bennett finally ends him, and Ethan Carter beats the Miracle Mike Bennett at 15 minutes and 3 seconds. Very, very good match. The crowd should have been a little bit more into this, being that these guys had some type of backstory, and Mike Bennett beat Ethan Carter and ended his undefeated streak. There should have been a little bit more excitement surrounding this match. There was not. Thankfully, the 2 in the ring did enough to make me enjoy the match. So Ethan Carter, EC3, beats Mike Bennett tonight in 15 minutes with 3 1%ers. Brother Nero is ready to go. Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy. Reminded me of the old school days in the Attitude Era, man. This is the reason why I bought the pay-per-view. Jeff ends up beating Matt, Brother Nero. Ends up getting the victory here. Swanton Bomb through an announce table, or one of the fold-up tables. Swanton Bomb through the table on the outside. Ends Matt Hardy. He was visibly bruised. This was a very, very hard-fought match. Full Metal Mayhem. Pretty much, it's a fucking TLC match with pins. And this was a nostalgia-type match, man. This is what the Hardys excel in. And this is what the Hardys thrive in. The only thing I did not like is the fact that it ended so abruptly. You know? It ended very, very abruptly. They might have called an audible. Matt Hardy was visibly bruised. He was bleeding. These guys went at it. They literally fucking threw everything at each other, man. Trash pails, ladders. There was a fucking keyboard. There was guardrails, tables. You name it, it was used in this fucking match, man. This was a throwback on what they did in the Attitude Era. A very, very enjoyable match. I just don't think the match ended the way it should have. And I expected a little bit more, man. It was a little bit anticlimactic to me. But as far as the Full Metal Mayhem, Jeff Hardy beats his brother Matt. And I gotta say, man, Matt Hardy, his music is fucking great. This gimmick, I swear to God, man, I would love to see this in WWE. I really would. I think he reinvented himself brilliantly. Matt Hardy, kudos to you, bro. You're doing a fucking great job. And honestly, something I did not like at first, and you made me a fucking fan. The way you are portraying this character and the way I see you're having fun and you're playing the character and you're getting into it, you are a fucking beast, man. Love it. Jeff Hardy beats Matt. Very, very fun match at 17 minutes. Swanton Bomb through the table on the outside. Tag team titles, DK versus the Bromans. I don't know, man. Someone in TNA has a fucking hard-on for Batman the Dark Knight. First it was Sting, and now it's Abyss with his fucking front teeth missing. Jesus Christ, man. Can you imagine Abyss picking up a woman fucking smiling at a bar with that fucking grill? I mean, seriously. And TNA, what is with the Dark Knight, bro? What is with the fucking infatuation with the Dark Knight? These guys, Sting looked like the Joker. Sting played Heath Ledger. These guys look like fucking Heath Ledger's goons in the Dark Knight. DK, coming out to Marilyn Manson music. First time I'm seeing these guys. They got a great look. Don't get me wrong. It's just the character is a little bit unoriginal. And again, I don't know why these two teams are fighting. WWE TNA didn't give us any backstory on it. You know, the Bromans, they remind me of what Mojo Rawley and Zack Ryder are doing in NXT. This was a decent match. I really didn't enjoy it all that much, though, because it was very campy at the end. You had mist being spit in referees' faces. Abyss got nailed with fucking mist. And it was just all over the place. And then you had interference upon interference. You had Rosemary interfere. She got slammed. She got thrown over the top rope. It was just fucking chaos all over the place until DK beat the Bromans after Abyss powerbombed Steve at 9 minutes and 15 seconds. And then finally the main event, Drew Galloway versus Bobby Lashley, or what they're going by. They're not even calling him Bobby Lashley. They're merely calling him Lashley. This was a great match. Started off slow, but it really started to pick up. Drew Galloway, he's fucking great, man. I really miss what he brings to the table. And TNA got a very, very good pickup in Drew Galloway. You got Bobby Lashley. Like I said, Bobby Lashley is not the guy that's going to get eyes on your company, especially as a world champion. Seriously, I don't know where they go from here, but TNA really needs to work on getting their champion and the top of the card feel important, because not only was the match was good, it just didn't feel important to me. The TNA title, after everything was over, and you had JB, do the announcing, and you had fucking Josh Matthews in the Pope, and the crowd, everything just mixed together. Everything, when it was a conclusion, it just didn't feel important to me. When everything was said and the bell rung and there was new champion, it didn't feel important. And if I feel it doesn't look important, and I feel as if TNA is not making it feel important, that's going to transpire. That's going to fucking seep through the television. It's the first thing I seen before I shut my TV off and I sat here to do this review. It didn't feel important. You had a title change tonight for your World Championship, and TNA didn't make it feel special. I mean, when a world title changes hands, it needs to feel important. I got none of that at all with these two guys, and they beat the shit out of each other. You got Drew Galloway doing flips over the top rope, landing through fucking tables. You got Lashley choking Galloway out in the middle of the ring, made him fucking pretty much pass out, you know. You got a Claymore kick, I believe they were calling it, and he nailed it like 3 fucking times on Lashley. Man, these guys were literally beating the shit out of each other. Samoan drops on steel steps. These guys went at it for the world title. It didn't feel like a world title. It felt like it at times, but overall it just didn't feel important enough to be a world championship match. And Drew Galloway loses. Only way to win was by pin or tapping out. And Lashley made Drew Galloway not tap, he passed out. So they'll probably play on that going into the next set of TV tapings. And that was the conclusion of Slammiversary. If you guys enjoyed the review, let me know, man. If I'm talking out my ass, let me know. I'm a newbie at TNA, I know. I'm not here to fucking criticize the product and compare it to WWE and poke fun and fucking point fingers and say they suck, they're doing this and this and this wrong. Listen, I'm a wrestling fan, you know. Not everything can be the fucking NXT brand. Not everything can be NXT where it's got the indie feel and it's got the WWE production. You know, I'm not assuming everybody in the indie scene is going to make their shows feel like NXT. We're spoiled with NXT. You know, I'm not here saying, oh, they need to be NXT. TNA does some things right, and they got the in-ring talent to do so. It's just at times that in-ring talent doesn't feel important. The crowd doesn't make what's happening in the ring feel important. TNA doesn't really have any backstory for casual viewers like me tuning in for the first time. You know, they don't have any story to make me feel invested in what these guys are doing. There's a lot of things that they did wrong tonight, but I'm not saying it was a bad show. I'm just giving you my criticisms from a wrestling fan's point of view who never watched the product. And I'm assuming, and I would bet, those who are watching me tonight would probably agree with most that I said. And if you don't, listen, it's my opinion. I'm a WWE guy. After this, I'm going to be reviewing Monday Night Raw tomorrow night. So be it. That's my review of Slammiversary. If you enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up. Let me know what you guys are thinking down below. And as always, I'll be back with more great WWE content right here on YouTube.com. If you guys missed Off the Script this weekend, everything you need is down in the description below. The iTunes podcast is live. New episode coming out later this week. And I'll be back with Monday Night Raw review as we head towards Money in the Bank. I'm JD. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, hit that thumbs up. Follow me on Twitter, JD from NY206, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this review. I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all for Monday Night Raw.